Love doesn't knock before entering your life. It crashes into you when you least expect it. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a whisper in a crowded place. And sometimes it grabs your hand while the world is moving too fast to stop. This is not just a love story. This is a story about chance, courage, fear, and the strange way two strangers can become each other's safest place. It all begins with a journey where one heart was full of excitement, and another was full of wounds that had never truly healed. Ayush sat alone, waiting, surrounded by noise but trapped inside his own thoughts. There was a quiet happiness in his eyes, the kind that comes when you are finally going back home. He had plans, small ones, beautiful ones, dreams wrapped in gifts and smiles. He imagined his parents' faces, his brother's excitement, the warmth of familiarity waiting for him. For him, this journey was comfort. For him, this journey was celebration. And then the train arrived. Metal screamed against metal, people rushed, voices collided, and life moved forward without pause. Ayush boarded quickly, heart light, unaware that his life was about to split into a before and an after. He settled into his seat, opened a book, thinking this journey would pass like all others. That's the thing about destiny. It never asks permission. As the train began to move, Ayush stood near the door, watching the world slide away. And then he saw her, a flash of red, a girl running, breathless, desperate, chasing something that refused to wait. Time slowed. Her feet stumbled, fear flickered across her face, and instinct took over. Ayush reached out without thinking. Hands met. And in that single touch, something changed forever. She pulled herself aboard, chest rising and falling, life rushing back into her lungs. Their eyes met. Ayush forgot how to breathe. Her eyes were wide, expressive, carrying stories he hadn't earned the right to hear yet. She thanked him, her voice trembling, and for a moment the world disappeared. Ayush smiled, a little too much, a little too confidently. He spoke a line he shouldn't have, and just like that, the spell broke. Her expression hardened, irritation replacing gratitude. She walked away, leaving Ayush standing there, embarrassed and confused. He thought that was the end. He was wrong. When he reached his seat, fate laughed quietly. She was sitting there. Right there. Close enough to touch. Close enough to hurt. She sighed, already tired of him, while Ayush felt like the universe was playing a joke. They sat together, strangers sharing space, pretending not to notice each other. She listened to music. He pretended to read. But eyes wander, and hearts don't stay silent for long. Sleep claimed her gently, her head tilting, her guard falling. Ayush watched, not with desire, but with wonder. She looked peaceful, fragile, human. Something inside him softened. When she woke, words finally found their way between them. Stories followed. Truth followed. Her pain surfaced slowly, carefully, like something that still hurt to touch. Broken family. Loneliness. Strength she never asked for, but had to carry. Ayush listened, not interrupting, not fixing, just listening. Night fell without permission. Seats turned into beds, silence deepened, and vulnerability crept in. Ayush gave up comfort without hesitation. She noticed. And for the first time, she smiled at him without walls. But love stories don't unfold without shadows. In the deep of the night, danger arrived quietly. A movement, a stolen breath. Ayush saw what she couldn't. And he didn't think, he acted. Pain exploded. Blood followed courage. Chaos followed love. She screamed his name. Fear wrapped around her heart. And everything went dark. Darkness didn't feel empty this time. It felt crowded with fear, unanswered questions, and a heartbeat that refused to slow down. Ayush drifted somewhere between pain and silence. Every breath felt borrowed. And somewhere close, very close, someone was refusing to leave. When his eyes finally opened, light stabbed gently at his senses. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. His hand throbbed, wrapped tightly, reminding him that bravery always leaves a mark. He tried to move, but his body protested. Then he saw her. Surili sat beside him, head resting on the edge of the bed, exhaustion carved into her face. The confident girl from the train was gone. In her place sat someone fragile, scared, and deeply human. Ayush forgot the pain in his hand. His chest tightened instead. A nurse entered, her voice practical but kind. She spoke about stitches, blood loss, courage, and concern. Then she smiled. She looked at Surili and said something that lingered longer than the pain ever could. This girl didn't leave your side. She fought for you when no one knew your name. She cares deeply. The words hung in the air. Surili stiffened. Ayush smiled faintly. Their eyes met. She spoke quickly, nervously, trying to rebuild walls that had quietly fallen apart. She called it humanity. She called it obligation. She refused to call it anything else. Ayush didn't argue. Some truths don't need words. Later, when the room grew quiet again, Ayush shifted slightly. Pain shot through his arm. He hissed. Surili rushed to him instantly. Fear spilled into her voice before she could stop it. He saw it. The care. The attachment. And something playful sparkled in his tired eyes. He asked the question he had been holding back. Not demanding, not forcing, just honest. She listened. Her past surfaced again, heavier this time. Love that broke. Promises that failed. A child who learned too early that forever doesn't always mean forever. She spoke slowly, carefully. She admitted something she had never planned to admit, that he felt different, that his eyes didn't ask for ownership, they offered safety. But fear stood tall between them, so she asked for friendship, time, space. Ayush didn't hesitate. He placed his injured hand over hers, carefully, respectfully. He told her, love doesn't rush. Love walks. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it heals first. They smiled. Not lovers, not strangers. Something new, something honest. Days passed differently after that. Messages carried warmth. Calls carried laughter. Meetings carried comfort. Festive lights surrounded them, but something brighter was growing quietly between them. Then came the goodbye. Train platforms always know how to break hearts. They stood there, pretending strength, pretending distance wouldn't change anything. As the train slowed, Surili broke. She ran back, wrapped her arms around him. Her voice shook as she spoke. She admitted the truth she had been running from, that these days had rewritten her, that she didn't want to lose what scared her the most. Ayush laughed through tears. He held her tightly. And for the first time, the journey felt complete. But love stories don't end where they feel safest. They begin there. Distance has a strange way of revealing truth. Sometimes it strengthens love. Sometimes it exposes fear hiding beneath affection. When they returned to their separate lives, the silence between messages felt louder than the noise of the train ever had. Ayush waited for replies the way one waits for rain after a long drought. Surili stared at her phone, fingers hovering, heart trembling. She wanted to move forward, but her past pulled her backward. Calls became fewer, words became cautious. And Ayush felt something he had never felt before. Fear of losing someone he never officially had. He questioned himself at night, wondered if kindness was enough, wondered if patience could survive uncertainty. Surili fought battles Ayush could not see. Memories of broken promises whispered warnings into her ears. She was afraid of believing again, afraid that love always comes with an expiration date. One night, the call finally came. Her voice was softer than usual. He listened without interrupting. She cried without hiding. She admitted she was scared of happiness. Scared because it felt real. Ayush didn't promise perfection. He promised presence. He promised honesty. He promised that even if love failed, respect never would. Silence followed. Then she breathed out, like someone finally putting down a heavy load. She chose courage over fear. Days turned gentle after that. Love grew slowly, safely, like sunlight entering a room that had been closed for years. They argued. They laughed. They learned each other's silence. They didn't rush forever. They built it. When they finally stood together again, there was no rush to speak. Eyes said everything words couldn't. Hands found each other naturally. No grand gestures, just certainty. Love had arrived quietly, not like a storm, but like home. They understood something important then, that love is not found only in dramatic moments. It is found in choosing someone every day, in protecting without possession, in staying without fear. Some journeys begin on a train. Some begin in heartbreak. And some begin the moment you decide to trust again. If you listen closely, life is always offering second chances, sometimes disguised as strangers, sometimes disguised as journeys, and sometimes as love that waits patiently for you to be ready. So, if you ever find yourself traveling alone, keep your heart open, because your destination might not be a place, it might be a person. And love, when it is true, will always find its way to you.